Hey guys, and welcome back to another lesson. Let's say that you have a hobby of building time machines out of old DeLoreans and that you find yourself stuck in the Wild West, held at gunpoint by a bunch of outlaws in a saloon who ask you to entertain them. Well, today's lesson just might save your life. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to play a particular style of piano called stride piano, which was exemplified in the short example I played at the beginning. Now, today's lesson is going to be divided into two parts. First of all, I'm going to slowly walk you through what I played at the beginning so you can replicate it on your end. In the second part, we'll delve a little bit deeper into the underlying ideas behind stride piano so you can incorporate it into your own playing. Let's get started. So, as you've probably noticed, what I initially played is comprised of an accompaniment in the left hand, which is comprised out of an alternating bass chord pattern. And this is what we're going to learn first of all. Now, really what I'm playing again is a bass, a double bass, an octave, and then a chord. So the first bass is a C, or a double C, and the first chord is a C major, in the first inversion to be exact. The next is an A bass, which alternates with an A dominant 7th chord. This is followed by a D, which then alternates with a D dominant 7th chord. I'm omitting the 5th, but it's still a valid and perfectly good sounding voicing for a D dominant 7. And then I have a G bass with a G dominant 7th chord. So really what I'm playing is a C major to an A, to a D, to a G. And this repeats twice. For the second half of the song, you have a pattern in the bass, which is an ascending bass. It's a C, followed by an E, F, F sharp, G, A, and then you have it jumps to a D, to a G, and to a C. Now, what I'm playing is a C bass with a C major chord, an E bass with a C dominant 7th chord, an F with an F dominant 7th chord, an F sharp with an A flat dominant 7th, G with a C major chord in the second inversion, an A with an A dominant 7th chord, and then we've already seen these, a D with a D dominant 7, and a G with a G dominant 7. So putting everything together and playing it a little bit slowly, we have Now, what about the right hand? Well, the right hand plays a melody, and this is what also gives this progression or little piece a swing feel. It has this kind of swingy feel to it, and this complements the left hand, which is a bit more rigid because it only falls on the beats. Now, what I'm playing in the right hand is the following. I start with an E flat, then I jump to an E, So everything I can do with the third finger, a G, and then I pivot above the thumb to an A, C, and then I can play an F sharp, A, and E flat, and then I go down to an F at D. Now, you can just hit the F and D, or you can hit it and then play a tremolo to add a little bit of interest, but you can keep this out if you're first learning this piece. So, something like this. This repeats itself, with the difference now being in the second iteration that the last pattern is not an F and an E, but an F, B, and E. This is really, you can think of this as a G13th chord. And again, you can, once you hit it, tremolo between these two notes, the B and the E. So, play it slowly. For the second part of this, we have start with the E flat again. With the third finger, you pivot underneath it with the thumb to the E. And then, so to the E, G, and A. And then you hit this shape, which is a G minor chord. But really it incorporates with the left hand to give you a C dominant ninth chord. And once you hit it, you can again do this tremolo trick, or just leave it out. Then you repeat the same pattern, but just shift it up a bit. And the last thing I play here is an A flat, C, and E flat, which is an A flat major chord. Then I hit a G and an E flat, and I do this alternation. Before hitting an A octave, a G and an E, and then I play a D major chord twice, and then again a G13th chord. And you can play this, you can just hit it once, or you can do something like this. So for the second part, putting everything together and playing it a bit slowly, we have you can of course loop this and just go back to the beginning. And you can play this repeated infinity times. Okay, now let's take a step back in the second part of this lesson and look a little bit more deeply into the stride piano style as a whole. Now historically, this style has evolved out of ragtime, and probably ragtime piano is best known for its major composer, who's Scott Joplin, and in particular there's one particular piece that people seem to recognize, which is The Entertainer. So it goes something like this. It was made famous by being used in an old 70s movie called The Sting. And ragtime piano had a very strict feel to it. So, it's very strict, kind of like a little bit like classical music, but with an alternating bass. What stride piano did is it really took this style and it incorporated this swing jazz feel to it. which is what sets it apart from ragtime. Now, there are some other things that over time evolved into this style. The main one being that the distances between the basses and the chords seem to increase over time, and people didn't just play the bass or the double bass. Some piano players ended up playing minor or major tenths or sevenths in the left hand. And this became a popular style initially by pianists like Fats Waller, and then later on by Art Tatum and subsequent jazz pianists. At the heart of this style really is this alternating, this stride style, where you stride basically, you take a big step from the bass to your chord. You don't have to do this in a rhythmical, militant kind of feeling. You can use this for ballads as well. So for example, and again, you don't have to use bass notes or double octaves. You can use tenths or you can use sevenths. If your hands are too small, you can only do minor tenths, and you cannot do major tenths, which, by the way, I cannot. You can always roll this. So just play the bass like this instead of hitting them both simultaneously. Or if you have, let's say, an E flat to a G, you can play something quickly like this. So really the idea is to kind of be your own orchestra. Play the bass and then the corresponding chord up here. And so on. So the basic underlying idea is to play both the bass and the alternating chord. Now when you come to choose the bass, the natural selections are notes that are within the chord itself. So let's say if you're playing a C dominant 7th chord, you could use any of the notes in the C dominant 7th chord as your bass. So you could play a G and a C dominant 7, or an E, or of course a C, or B flat. And it kind of makes sense to think about the motion of the bass, just like we did in our little piece, right? We had this ascending bass part, where the bass just kept going up. So let's say you have a C major 7th going into a C dominant 7th. It kind of makes the sense for maybe the bass to move a little bit to a B flat or to an E if you start from a C. And then you have an F major, so you can use an A, which is part of the F major chord. And then say an F minor, to a C major. And then to some sort of D major chord. So you have to both think as a pianist in terms of the chord that you're going to play, but also a little bit as a bass player, because you're controlling the way the bass moves. And normally your interest will be to make the motion as smooth as possible. So that's it. I hope these ideas have given you some direction to incorporate stride piano into your own playing, and that you've learned something interesting, and I will see you next time.